This is J. Krishnamurti's third public talk in Santa Monica, California, 1971.
What is happening in the world we live in? How destructive and brutal man has become. The other evening, when I happened to look at a television, and you saw young seals being knocked on the head, baby seals being killed. And I thought that was the epitome of civilization. But what man has done, not only he is destroying nature, but also he is destroying himself. One has become so extraordinarily callous, utterly indifferent, except to save his own particular self, be entrenched safely behind the walls of one's own beliefs and experiences, and trying to go beyond these walls, always seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. One sees what is happening in organizations, how corrupt everything has become. What education has produced this extraordinary human being that is specialized and lopsided, incapable of looking at the whole structure and the nature of the world in which he lives, looking at the whole problem, not at a particular personal issue. Seeing the extraordinary overpopulation, pollution, and looking at our own lives, always in conflict. Always trying to do something greater, nobler, everlastingly fighting from the moment we are born till we die. There is everlasting struggle. And this is our life. We join this or that particular society, do some kind of silly meditation, read great many books, or avoid all intellectual thought and endeavor. I don't know if you have not noticed how terrible it all is becoming, how ugly. And apparently, we are incapable, it seems, of solving our problems. And can our minds and hearts really comprehend the world in which we live? totally, not partially, not from any particular point of view, as a Catholic, communist, Protestant and all the rest of it, but look at it as a whole. Look at it as human beings who have built this monstrous society. Look at it not intellectually, not verbally, but actually be aware of what is happening. When one observes there is not only a great sorrow and an overpowering sense of despair, and one wonders what action, what an individual, a human being, can do in this world. An action that will cover the whole field, not one fragment of the field, that will bring about an understanding and therefore a total action that will never be fragmented, that will be complete, that will have in it the quality of truth and great compassion. I'm sure one has asked this question of oneself or read it in some book. If one has asked it seriously, one wonders how this has come into being. Though man has lived for many million years, has lived through various cultures, and those extraordinary paintings of 25,000 years and more in the caves in France and in Spain, how man has deliberately or unknowingly built this fantastic society. What has brought this about? And I think this whole structure, not only the organizational side of it, but our daily life, the pain, the hurts, the passing pleasures and sorrows, the deep abiding fears, anxiety, the sense of utter loneliness and the boredom of life. In seeing all this, one is aware that thought has built this. Man thinking, either deeply or very superficially, cunningly or with consideration, Thought has played an extraordinary part in this, has built this whole monstrous structure, a trap in which we are caught. And we worship the intellect. To us, thought is extraordinarily important. Because we see how thought, with all the knowledge it has accumulated, the experiences of many, many generations, the knowledge, both scientific, human accumulation of experience, all this is due to thought. And one asks, in observing this, whether thought can ever solve this problem. Not a particular problem, but the whole problem of existence. Because that's the only instrument we have, the capacity to think either clearly, logically, sanely, objectively, or cunningly, superficially. Thought, that is the capacity to think, has produced this civilization. And there is no question that we think that thought can resolve all these problems. And that's why intellect, that is the capacity to observe, to learn, to correlate, and to put into action what it has learned. And for most of us, the intellect has become all important. And we look to the intellect, to the capacity to think very logically, objectively, sanely, to solve our problems. And the analytical process is part of this intellectual structure, to analyze, to find the cause, and somehow overcome the cause and the effect. That is the process of analysis, which is part of the intellectual capacity to logically observe and analysis hasn't solved our problem. The problem of living peacefully, with great compassion and understanding in our relationships. Analysis not only by the professional, but also analysis by oneself, digging deeply into oneself, uncovering all the festering wounds of hurts and despair and loneliness, somehow doesn't answer totally. Because in analysis, if you have observed it, and if you have played with it a little bit, not with the professionals, but by yourself, you're bound to see that in analysis there is not only the analyzer and the thing analyzed. The analyzed is the living quality, is the living thing. And the analyzer is the past. He is the censor. He is the sum total of all past experiences, whether personal or collective. And in analysis, unless you analyze totally and completely and fully, every analysis is not only incomplete, but leads to false conclusions. And analysis implies also a great deal of time. That is, digging day after day, penetrating into ourselves very deeply, layer after layer. All that implies a process of time. And that again is the result of our capacity to think. Now, what is the function of thought? To create this extraordinary, mischievous, brutal world, to have the capacity to go to the moon, to acquire scientific knowledge, to invent the whole structure of religions with their saviors, with their priests, with their rituals. All religions are the result, obviously, of the few thinking, logically or illogically, and the rest accepting. Again, that is a part of our whole capacity to think. Our gods are the product of our thoughts, our saviors, whoever they be, Catholic or Protestant, or the gurus of India, which have been transplanted, unfortunately, into this country. They're all. You will have your turn, sir, when you ask your questions, and I hope you will. They're all the result of our thinking, which is so obvious. And yet, one must think. Think logically, sanely, objectively, non-emotionally, and therefore efficiently. It is absolutely necessary. Otherwise you can't function. And yet you see how thought, in its desire to find security, has divided the world into religions, nationalities, with their armies, all the appalling, destructive expenditure to kill man. All that is the result of thought. Seeing this extraordinary phenomenon, not verbally, but actually, feel it, observe it, know it for yourself, that this whole structure is based on thought. So unless one understands completely the nature and the structure of thought, one will not be able to go beyond the limitations of thought, the limitation of reason. So what is thinking? May I take my coat off? You see, this is really very, very complex and serious question. Because as long as we are always functioning within the limitation of thought, man will never be free. He may invent a wider field of thinking, but it is still within the boundaries of the known. So we must go into this question. Please, as we said the other day, this is a problem that has tortured man for ages, countless ages. And apparently, very few have gone beyond the boundaries of thought. And unless one understands deeply what is thinking and know the whole process of thought, one will always live in the world of the known. And a man who lives only within that field is very limited. He's always will be in confusion and in sorrow. So we must share this question together. It's your problem, really. Because you have been educated to think along a particular line, to use your intellect, to worship the capacities of intellect. And you have put intellect as the highest form of man's endeavor. All your philosophies are based on this intellectual capacity and perception. And what is thinking? You know, if you have never read a book, if you haven't heard or read or listened to your professors and psychologists, what would your answer be? Your answer, not somebody else's answer. Because if you answer according to somebody else, then you are a second-hand human being. And unfortunately, most of us are not second-hand, but umpteenth hand. And when you ask this question of yourself, now, what would be your answer? Not what you have heard, but what you have yourself discovered. You know, it would be very good if we never repeated what another has said. Never to say anything that we actually have not experienced. Never to theorize, but actually observe, not with other people's eyes, but with our own hearts and mind, so that what we say is true, genuine, real, not fanciful. And so when one asks, what is thinking? Where is the source of all this capacity, this extraordinary structure? The speaker, not having read anything about all this, has naturally observed. And you can see for yourself, if you have spent time and energy and care, that memory, which is the residue of experience, the collection of all experiences whether personal or collective, is stored in the brain, in your brain. And that when there is any challenge, that memory responds as thought, and from thought, action. Isn't it? Memory is knowledge. And knowledge is always in the past as memory. Memory may project itself into the future and shape the present according to the future. Future being an ideal utopia, your wish, your hope, your whatever it be. And knowledge being the past and stored up as memory, like a computer, responds according to its background and depth or shallowness as thought. And knowledge is always within the field of the known. Are we sharing all this together? May I ask? Haven't you found for yourself, when you observe your own mind, if you have done it, if you have been aware of it, that you respond according to your conditioning, according to your knowledge, according to your experience, either technologically or humanly? And don't you find that thought, which is memory, is never free? Thought is always old. To go to the moon, you must have accumulated immense knowledge. And knowledge collected through ages helps one to go to the moon or live under the sea and so on. So thought is never free. Thought is always old. And we are trying to solve all our human problems with thought which is of yesterday. All thought is of yesterday. And so we do not solve our problems at all. Every problem, if you have observed, is always new. But thought treats it as an old problem and tries to find an answer according to the knowledge which it has acquired. Look, thought builds an image. thought builds images in relationship, doesn't it? You have an image about yourself, and you have an image about your neighbor, your wife or your husband, your children. Don't you have these images? Multiple images crowding your whole mind with formulas, with concepts, with ideas, all within the field of the known. Haven't you noticed that you have an image about your wife or your husband? And that image has been built through many years of pleasure, of pain, of nagging, domination, and so on, so on. Are you aware of such images? And if you are, you will see that the relationship is between image and image. And therefore no relationship at all. So all this is the product of thought. And our problems can never be solved by the process of thought. Obviously, because thought is the response of memory, which is the past. Right, sirs? Are we meeting each other? Huh? No. All right, doesn't matter. So one asks, what is the function of thought? If it cannot possibly solve our problems, as it has not, then what is the function of thought? You must have knowledge to go to your house. You must have knowledge to recognize your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, and so on. You must have knowledge. You must have memory. And without memory, you cannot think. There would be in a state of amnesia. And yet you see that thought, being old, never free, cannot solve the total human problem. So, realizing that, not speculatively, actually, we have a problem which is what is the function of thought and where is the limitation between thought and freedom, right? I daren't ask if you're following me because God knows. Because, look, this is a tremendous problem. And the beauty of it is to see the immensity of it. The complexity of it. That thought at one level must completely function, most efficiently. And yet thought can never find the freedom which man is seeking. Not the freedom of doing what you like, not the freedom of all permissiveness, which is not freedom at all. So, where is freedom? In the capacity to think or beyond the thought, beyond thought, that is beyond knowledge. If we are functioning always within the known, as most of us do, then we are always living in a prison. And in that, there is never any freedom. And man has to find freedom. So, let's leave that for the moment and come back to it a little later. There are many problems we have to face. There is the problem of chastity. There is this immense question of love and death. Before we can understand the sexual problems, we must first understand what is chastity. Understand it, not intellectually or verbally. That's not understanding at all. That's merely hearing a few words and repeating it. That's not understanding. Understanding implies a state of being chaste. Not how to be chaste, but the quality of the mind that is completely chaste. And one observes this question of sex. You know, most religions in the past, and now it's rapidly breaking down, have said, if you want to find God or serve God, you must be celibate. That is, you must be chaste. And these poor unfortunate people, both in the West and in the East, are tortured by their sexual appetites, and yet they have taken vows of chastity, which is, they are in a battle with themselves. On one side, they say they must be chaste, not look at a woman or a man, and yet they are burning, boiling inside. And when you also observe, throughout the world, sex has become extraordinarily important. Probably the most important thing in the world. Why? Now, what is your answer? You become very still, don't you? Which shows that in your life This is the most important thing. Much more than the understanding and the beauty of truth. More, what is compassion? We are not interested in all that. To you, this is of the greatest and the most important thing in life. Why? Now, sirs, to find out, we have to share the problem together. We have to look at it together. Because we must bear in mind, when we are talking about the problems and the idiocy of sex, that chastity has been one of the major demands of man. And yet, he is tortured. So, in going to this question of why human beings throughout the world have given such colossal importance to this one subject above all else, they've all said, the religious people, this really serious ones, not the priests, not the people who have committed themselves to a particular form of ritualism, to particular beliefs and dogmas and saviors. No, they're not serious at all. But the really serious people who have gone into this question very, very deeply, watching themselves clearly, objectively, sanely, they perceive that energy, there must be an abundance of energy to tackle the human problems. Tremendous energy is needed. You need great energy to change yourself radically. You need energy to see very clearly without any distortion. You need energy in abundance to seriously pursue to the very end of any particular question. And so they said, sex is a waste of energy. Therefore, control it, hold it, torture yourself, and be chaste at the same time. Which obviously is a wastage of energy. Please sir, do listen, don't clap, please. This is dreadfully serious what I'm talking about, don't laugh. Because it's your life, not my life. It's your tortures. It is the thing that is most important to you. And at the same time, to live a life of complete chastity. You must understand this. And why has man, you, especially in this country where there are nightclubs. Oh, you know what's happening, don't you? The excitement, the temptation, all the rest of it. You have given such colossal, immense importance to this simple thing. Why? One can say that you have given it importance here because your life is mechanical. Intellectually, your second, third, 15th hand. You are repeating machines, going to the office every day of your life. Earning some money, enjoying. You know very well what you're doing. So intellectually, there is nothing. You're a machine. And all your feelings are so, if I may say so, very superficial. Rather shoddy, envious, jealous, competitive. And you have only this one thing in which you hope to find all heaven. And that's the only freedom you have. Though you may have money and go abroad and all the rest of it, all that is not freedom. So you're caught in this trap. And you don't know what it means to live a life of chastity, which is, do please listen to this. Don't agree, but just listen. Chastity is the freedom from all image. That is, the image, the thought, seeking through pleasure, seeking pleasure through sex, has built various forms of images, sensations, pictures. It is a mind that's completely free from all image making. Then you will say that you have abundance of energy. As I said, you need tremendous energy to bring about a radical revolution in yourself, because you are the world, and the world is you. You have made this world. And to bring about a change in the outer structure, there must be change deeply within. And around this phenomenon of sex is love. Right? So, is pleasure love? Is love desire? Which is goodness being good, not becoming good, being good? Is that the product of thought? And so, what is love? He said, is love pleasure? And apparently, you have made it as pleasure. And in that pleasure, there is pain, there is jealousy, envy. Can a man who is ambitious, competitive, worshipping success, giving himself importance, can he love? And because we don't know what it means to love, to have compassion, the feeling, you understand, the beauty of it. We have destroyed our children. Haven't you? Look at it. Look at your children. Drugs, sex, all permissiveness, the breaking up of family. This is what you have produced. And all the time you talk about love. I love my wife or husband. Do you? You love that which is pleasurable. And you call that love. And in that, obviously, there is no compassion. Because if you had compassion, there would be no wars. You would stop the whole movement of war. Because you would stop your children being killed, but you don't care. I know you will listen to this, and I know too that you won't do anything. Because to do something completely, you must have energy. But your energy is dissipated in pleasure, in entertainment. And in this too, have to understand this whole question of what death is. You know how thought has brought fear into this question. Death. We don't want to think about it at all. It's something to be avoided, something to be postponed. Old age, disease, you know the whole business of it. And knowing that we shall die, There are those who believe in a future life. You know, reincarnation. You know what it means? That you, as an entity, will be born next life. Have you ever examined what you are? What you call yourself, you, with which you want to identify yourself? What is the you that will be reborn next life, if there is such thing, if you believe in next life? Have you examined what you are? What are you? A bank account? A name? A series of beliefs, experiences, the battle, the conflict, the misery? The strife, the loneliness, the ache, the furniture? Aren't you all that? And that is going to be born next life. With modifications, of course. And also, if you believe in that, means that next life depends what your life is now. What kind of life you lead now. Whether it is sloppy, tortuous, cunning, brutal, stupid, shallow, or is life of great austerity. Of real love and compassion, then what matters is what you are now, not what happens next life. And like love, which cannot be cultivated, which cannot be gained by going to a college and studying it, which cannot come by any effort, but demands great sensitivity, sense of great beauty. Like love, death is, as goodness is, love is, and death is not how to avoid it, how to overcome it. That means to die every day to everything you hold on to. Do it, and you will find out what it means. You see, unless you have done all these things deeply, in the secrecy of your own room, when we talk about meditation, as we shall tomorrow, meditation then becomes merely self-hypnosis. Therefore, one must lay the foundation of a life based on righteous behavior, not the behavior of social demands, because the social morality is immoral. and to live a life. And therefore one has to go into this whole question of what is thinking. Whether thought can ever be free, or freedom doesn't lie within the field of knowledge. So, the harmonious living within the field of the known and the movement of the unknown is intelligence. The movement of the relationship between the known and the unknown is intelligence. And intelligence is not the product of thought. It comes only when there is great inquiry into oneself. And in that intelligence functions then in the field of known, and also it knows when to be completely be free of the known. Now, sir. What is the time? Now, would you like to ask any questions? Yes, sir.
Aquarius? Were you born under the sign of Aquarius?
Born in the sign of Aquarius.
What is your astrological sign?
Are you born under Aquarius, is that it? Huh? Were you born under Aquarius? Good Lord. We are talking how to live a life that is good, a life that has meaning. And you ask me whether I was born under Aquarius. That's what I mean, sir, how superficial we are. Yes, madam.
What do you think about reading and writing?
What do I think about reading and writing?
Do you think that they're extensions of the past and they go into the future? Do
Maybe
you want us
one-
to read your book?
Huh?
Well, just tell me what you think of reading and writing.
I don't quite understand, madam.
Well, do you think it's avoiding the future to read a book, or avoiding the present to read a book?
Do you think by reading a book you avoid the present?
Yeah.
It all depends why you read a book. Well, why do you read a book?
To avoid the present sometimes.
That is, you read a detective story or a thriller,
Not that, but like if I read a book so I can get better.
oh, you read a book because you want to get better. That's a lovely way of reading. You want to get better. Won't you sit down, please? You'll be more comfortable. You want to get better. You know, that's one of the most horrendous, ugly ideas, that you will get better. It doesn't work, I agree. But what is the better? Have you ever thought about it? A better bathroom, yes. A better car. But what is it, you, that is going to become better? Is better the good? You understand? Is the better the good? How can goodness ever be better? No, please, don't listen. See it in your own hearts, for God's sake. You know, all of you have been taught that you must become better. And therefore you are never good. Because the better is the enemy of the good. When you are good, you know what it means to be good? Not to be envious, not to be competitive, ambitious and angry, lonely. You know, good. Then there is no better. And the idea of self-improvement, what does that mean? Improving what? The self? What is the self? What is the self? What are you which you are trying to improve? Your angers? Your despairs? You are increasing your bank account? What are you? Do please look at it, examine it, find out. Aren't you a lot of words? And if there are no words, then is there a thinking? Then what is that quality of mind that is not caught in words? Is that the me, the self, the ego, the personality? So without going into all this very, very deeply, we superficially say, I'm improving myself, I want to be better. Probably you want to be better in the managerial world. That's all. But not better in the psychological world. You can never be better. You either end and therefore begin. You follow? Look, you're interested in all that? So, look, a new thing can take place only when there is an ending of the old. And when you end the old, there is no better, there is the new. Look, when you are ambitious, greedy, envious, to end that, in the very ending of it, there is something totally new. But when you say, I must become better, then there are several things are involved in it. The whole action of will. What is will? You see, you're not used to all this. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, how does one maintain control of one's thought, maintain a clear picture in a world such as ours that is so distorted and so complex and so full of aggression?
How does one control thought? thought which has created such mischief in the world? That's the question. How do you control thought? Do you want an answer to that? Now, just listen, please. Just listen to me. Just listen. Don't try, if I may suggest, to do something with what is being said. Just listen. Don't control thought. Now, who is the controller of thought? Right? When you say control thought, who is the controller that controls thought? Is not the controller part of thought? Right? So, thought trying to control itself. Right? And so what does it do? One thought says, I am the controller. I don't like these set of thoughts and I'm going to control them. Therefore there is conflict, right? And conflict is the very essence of and the wastage of energy. Conflict in any form is a wastage of energy. Whereas if you see for yourself very clearly that thought and the thinker who says, I must control thought, that thinker is thought. They're not two separate things. So the thinker is the thought. The observer is the observed. If you see the truth of that, actually see it, not intellectual, but see something. As you see that microphone, see it clearly, then you will see a totally different change come in your thinking. Moment you control, you see, either we control or we do what we want to do. We are permissive, we allow ourselves to do anything we like, or we control ourselves till we are distorted. There's a battle between these two, always, the two extremes. So we never find out this whole process of control, this duality, the thinker and the thought which wanders away. This question is whether the mind, the brain, can ever be totally empty. Empty of all will. That's real meditation. We'll go into it tomorrow if you're interested in it. That is the mind completely free and empty. And being empty, in which alone there is intelligence, that intelligence can operate with knowledge and be free of knowledge. We'll go into it later if you're interested in this, because where's the process of invention? Would you go into the process of invention? Oh yes, I got it. How do you think a man who invented the jet propulsion, how did he come upon it? do you discover anything new in your life? That's much better. Let's come nearer than the jet. How do you discover anything new in your life? Like the man who invented the jet, who discovered that principle, he must have known all the internal combustion machine business completely. Knowing all that, there must have been a gap between knowing and not knowing. You're following all this? If he kept on with what he knew, there would be nothing new. And that's what we are doing in daily life. We keep going with all the things we know. We never end them. We carry on with our problems day after day, day after day. We never say, but finish. It's only then you see something new. It is in that interval between the known and the unknown, the new, in that interval is the space in the brain, in the mind, which is completely empty. Something new can take place. Oh, you know all this, doesn't matter. Yes, sir. What is that, sir?
Are you experiencing the unknown?
Are you? I understand, sir. Are you experiencing, as you are talking, of the unknown?
I was thinking as you're listening.
Huh?
I was thinking more of when you're listening than when you're talking. As I speak.
So do you know what it means? You see, I don't, all right. Do you know what it means to have a completely still mind? A mind that doesn't chatter? A mind that has no problems? A mind that isn't projecting some future desire, hope, or escaping from some hurt, reality, and so on? Do you know what it means to sit very quietly physically? Have you ever done all these things? To sit absolutely quietly and to have a mind that's completely quiet without a movement of thought. And therefore, to find that out, you have to understand the whole machinery of thought. And you're asking whether the speaker is aware when he is speaking of the unknown. Is that your question, sir? Now, whatever I answer, you will not understand it. Because first you must know what it means to have a quiet mind. Yes, sir.
As far as the unity goes between eating meat yourself.
With what, sir?
Eating meat, you feel that it has an effect upon consciousness?
Oh, good Lord. Eating meat, has this an effect on the body, on consciousness? Has eating meat any effect on consciousness? The speaker has never eaten meat in his life. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is the content. What the content is consciousness. You've understood? Your consciousness is your anger, your brutality, your affection, your pleasure, your annoyance, your loneliness, your misery, suffering, your ambition, your all that, the content is consciousness. Now, what you do affects your consciousness, obviously.
So does meat, do you feel that meat does affect consciousness?
Do you feel you should become a vegetarian? Yes. Sir, look. I believe the scientists are discovering that to kill cattle is too expensive. Right? They are beginning to discover this. Because they consume a lot of land, they need a lot of land. Therefore, you're all gradually going to become vegetarians. Like some writer once told me, he said, vegetarianism is like some loathsome disease that's spreading in America. So, look, what you put into your mouth is important, but what is far more important is what you think, how you think and why do you think. To know the whole of that, to know yourself is far more important, though not killing is important. Yes, sir.
Stress, normal day, city life. Where does one get the extra energy to say about pictures and images and joy? You need an awful lot of energy.
How do you get energy? First of all, by eating the right food, obviously, taking right exercise. I suppose you all know something of yoga, do you? Oh, too bad. You know, real yoga is something that is a way of life, not doing few exercises. By eating right kind of food, by not having any conflict at all, which means by not having contradiction in yourself. You understand? No contradiction in yourself. Then you have any amount of energy, which is contradiction, wanting and not wanting, hating and say I mustn't hate. You know what contradiction is? Where there is contradiction, there is conflict. There is a battle going on inside yourself. And therefore, that kind of battle, that kind of conflict is a total wastage of energy. If you see the truth of it, not the verbal, logical statement of it, but the truth of it, then you'll have it. Then you'll live a life that has no conflict, which doesn't mean you vegetate. On the contrary. Yes, madam.
How can you said to get rid of images, but how can an artist create without images, a painter or a
How can an artist live without images? You see, that's one of our peculiarities of this modern world. There are the scientist, the businessman, the artist, the laborer, we have divided it all so beautifully. And you say the artist must have images, otherwise he can't paint. Now we are talking of human relationship, of not the artist, of human relationship. And in this human relationship there's been such misery, such appalling hatred, such violence. And the violence, the hatred, this tremendous drive of competition is the outcome of the various kinds of images that one has. Haven't you got an image about yourself? That you must be this or that? Have an image that you are ugly, beautiful, that you must be noble, that we have. And therefore, when you have an image, the question then arises, how do these images are formed? And how are they to end? The formation of images and the ending of images, and never to form images. You understand? Do you want to go into all this? There are two things involved in this. The ending of the past images and never to form images. So, we have images of various kinds. What you should be, or what you have been, or what you will become. Image after image, not only of yourself, of your neighbor, of your wife, of your children, of your politicians, everybody has images. And these images prevent relationship, right? If I have an image of myself as a Hindu, or as a Catholic, or as a great man, I have no relationship with anybody. I've isolated myself. And when I see that in isolation there is division, and therefore out of division there is conflict, the very perception of the truth of that ends the formation of image. You understand this? That, and also, you form an image when you are not attentive. Haven't you noticed this? Somebody insults you, and you have formed an image. He's my enemy. Somebody flatters you, he's my friend. Now, if at that moment of flattery and insult, you are attentive, you are aware, then you will see that you don't form any image at all. That is, the image making is the scarring, the mark on the brain cells which leave an image. You experiment with this, you'll find out that when you are inattentive, not paying attention, then you form images. And when you have an image, there is division. And therefore there is conflict. Haven't you noticed in your relationship with your wife and with your husband, with all the rest of it, haven't you noticed that you have images? And then the question is, having the images, how are they to end? How are they to end, and how are they not to be formed at all? They will not form any image if you're attentive, care, when there is real affection. And inevitably, you have images when you are slack, indifferent, careless.